So
Yeah.
well, you wouldn't know any better. Daddy wouldn't know any better. Of course, your daddy probably came from someplace else.
Came from the
You guys had
Showing
Don
in the
Shula,
Bronx.
the perfect season, and Dan Marino,
Right.
the greatest quarterback, probably top 5 greatest quarterback of all time. So
Now,
yeah,
don't give me that one. I
We're
have
stuck
different
in our
opinion
ways
there.
here.
Yeah.
We tried to figure out the humidity before we could figure out
That's,
where to put a
Winning.
competitive team. We still don't know how to do that except for the heat. So
that's good. I
Yeah.
like that. Very
Yeah.
smart. So,
Yeah.
all right. Well, just to give everybody a preview of what Damon Knight's going to talk about on Thursday, he's going to do a little bit of homework on the Detroit Red Wings struggles. So, Damon, just so you know, you can find Damon Knight's.
you can find his material actually on the South Florida Tribune. I read Damon's stuff. We all do. Damon puts out quality stuff. He's a very good communicator. So, I think a lot of people will relate to a lot of what he says. You can give Damon a follow on Twitter. Damon, you want to plug your Twitter handle real quick?
It's Damon Knight 67227, I believe.
You believe with all those numbers, you better figure it out. But it's okay.
Yeah.
I'm just teasing you, buddy. You know how if I didn't love you, I wouldn't tease you. I wouldn't bring you on here. But you're a good man, Charlie Brown.
All right, thank you. I appreciate it.
So yeah, Charlie Brown. Of course, the only reason I mentioned that is that time of the Christmas year. Any latest developments at the Highland House at all?
Latest developments. I bussed for the first time in months. I've been doing dishwashing, and so a couple of days ago I did bussing for the first time. So it's been crazy. So
well, I'll say this with Mr. Baseball here, okay, and I mean Mr. Baseball. Once upon a time, I did a little dishwashing to get my first baseball job, and I ended up getting a job at the baseball winter meetings in Hollywood. And where did that lead me? To the Gastonia Rangers with 12 future major leaguers. So any way that you can earn an honest living and still be able to incorporate the media in your repertoire, more power to you. So, all right, well, we'll wait for you to go ahead and write on the Moustakis one. And once again, we'll have some Red Wing conversation on Thursday. Okay, buddy?
Yes. Thank you, Scooper. Appreciate it. Thank you, Lewis. You
No
guys
problem,
are awesome.
Damon.
Thank you.
Always a pleasure.
Well done, buddy. Thank you.
Have a good night.
Yep. Have a good night. Good night.
Got loaded information there. What do you want to add to it, Mr. Baseball?
I mean, yeah, Damon's great. I mean, I always feel like I'm listening to you revert to your teenage years when you talk to him because you're from Detroit. It's always fun to hear you guys recollect on the. I mean, he's living it. You're talking about stuff that happened to you when you were younger, but it's always cool to hear about that. It's a different part of the country, different means of living, different type of lifestyle. So it was cool. Look, Damon always comes up with quality stuff. Not only it's cool to see him stepping out from just obviously his region. He's doing some national stuff with talking about the Reds. But yeah, look, I'll say it again about Moustakis. I think that's a phenomenal signing. I think David Bell is a really good manager. I mean, he comes from the family, Buddy Bell and all those guys that hit, like the Boones. He's just a family of people who know the game of baseball. I think that's why he fits so well with that organization, one with so much history.
Right.
Yeah. So, I mean, look. There really isn't much else you could say about it. I think he'll be a great addition to that team. The clubhouse presence is one thing, and look, in the age of analytics, we tend to get away from that. But I think in the case of Moustakis and the Kansas City Royals, they won that division handily, but in 2015. But there was a lot of clubhouse culture that went into that team. The numbers won't jump off the charts if you read their baseball reference page. But
right. Well, true. But remember one thing beyond the numbers that you're so accustomed to talking about. Once teams win championships, guys want raises. Mm-hmm. And when guys want raises in small market teams, what do you think happens?
Yeah, they leave.
Right.
Hosmer, San Diego, 8 for 144.
Well, right, okay, but you can go on with Hosmer and everybody on the planet. They all want raises, and unfortunately, these smaller market teams cannot afford. Unlike the National Football League, Lewis, okay, where there's revenue sharing, you're able to keep a lot of these players. So it's just a totally different animal altogether. And that's what the common denominator is.
Yeah. Look, that's what I was saying before is just I think Moustakis' clubhouse presence is going to be a much needed addition. I think Votto is very dry, sardonic sense of humor. I think is going to mesh well with Moustakis' very fun-loving but again professional nature. That's exactly what Cincinnati needs. I think this acquisition of him made them an 80 to 83 win team, and that's not going to get you in the playoffs, but I don't think they're done. They're going to spend money this offseason. Dick Williams, their general manager, said that, and I think he's going to put the best possible team for David Bell in the field to succeed, and I think that's what's going to happen. Well,
I mean, it's possible. Hey, listen, if that signing is an indication, and they'll bring in you don't have to have mega superstars to make a team win. You just have to make sure the pieces fit.
Yeah, and as long as they gel, like I talk about numbers, but in this case, clubhouse chemistry is everything. I mean, as good as the 2011 Red Sox were, they were eating fried chicken and drinking beer in the locker rooms.
Right.
John Lester and John Lackey and all those guys, and that was a downfall for them. Obviously, Lester is a great clubhouse guy and he's a terrific postseason pitcher, but the culture was damaged there under Terry Francona, and that's why changes need to be made. And I think the Reds have done a perfect job. Obviously, they got out of Dusty Baker, and Brian Price didn't work out well for them, but I think they have the right, captain of the ship to sail this thing into the postseason. That's where they want to get back to. They haven't won a World Series, Scott. It's going to be 30 years now entering 2020. They haven't won since the days of Lou Piniella.
Oh, yeah. I'll tell you.
Mariners.
Yeah, no doubt about that. Well, I mean, everybody knows that Lou Piniella, to me, I think he's a guy before our next guest comes in. And meanwhile, with that said, okay, we welcome Tom Shanahan to the program. Tommy, glad to have you on, buddy. Thank you very much.
Yeah, just got back home. Just made it under the wire.
Good man. That's what I like to hear. Well, you know what? Since you made it under the wire, you earned yourself a minute to promote your book, and then we'll go over some of the things you talked about. Go on. This is Christmas time. 'Tis the season to promote his book. Go on.
My book, Ray of Light, is a perfect Christmas gift for anyone who's a college football fan, but especially a Michigan State fan, and especially if you want to understand the integration of college football. No school and no coach did more for the integration of college football than Duffy Daugherty at Michigan State in the 1960s. He had his Underground Railroad teams where he recruited the segregated South. There's a lot of myths and fictional narratives out there about Bear Bryant in Alabama and USC, but it started with Duffy Daugherty recruiting the segregated South. And in reality, it was the Southern black high school coaches that built the Underground Railroad because they understood and trusted Duffy Daugherty to take care of their players because he had put on free clinics for them down in the South when they otherwise weren't allowed to attend clinics that Duffy had been invited to for high school coaches.
So how are they going to get the book?
Just go to my website, ShanahanReport.com, and that's Shanahan, just like the 49ers coach. I almost said Mike Shanahan, just like the 49ers coach,
right.
Kyle Shanahan. And there's a link to order it. You can go to augustpublications.com too.
All right, well, let's get to the business at hand. Okay, we have a few things we'll get to in the time frame that we have allotted. And I'm not feeling sorry for Nick Saban, and neither are you.
Yeah, real happy to see them lose. Hopefully, that is the end of them being in the college football playoff conversation. As I've mentioned in the past, they've got too many second chances. 2012, they did not win their division. I'm not talking conference, division.
Right.
If they were picked as the second team in the BCS against LSU, the conference and division champion. And then 2017, same thing. They did not win their division. They lost to Auburn. Then Auburn loses to Georgia, and they decide Alabama belongs in the college football playoff, and they capitalize both times for the national title. How many chances do they get? Well, so there's an obvious bias in towards the SEC and Alabama in particular, but maybe that kind of caught up with Alabama this year because they were sitting there at number 5, so perfectly primed to sneak back into the college football playoff as one of 2 SEC teams until Auburn knocked them off. Now, in this new poll, they've dropped all the way from 5 to 12. That's a little drastic. I don't think they've deserved to drop that far. There aren't 11 teams in the country better than Alabama. But at least that sends a message. They're not getting back into the playoffs. So I'm glad to see that whatever 4 teams get in there, they had to earn it by winning on the field and not getting second chances like Alabama.
So you're trying to tell me that Alabama's had more lives than Morris at 9?
Yeah.
Okay.
and another way the SEC bias manifests itself is at the top 4 teams here. Clemson started out the year as the defending national champion, unbeaten, ranked number 1. They're now sitting at number 3. Well, let's go over the top 4 first of all. Ohio State is number 1. LSU is number 2. Clemson is number 3. Georgia is number 4. And then they're sitting there at 5 and 6 waiting for somebody to stumble, or Utah or Oklahoma. And I guess you could say Baylor, too, at 7. But Clemson has not lost a game, and they've gone from number 1 to number 3. Correct me if I'm wrong. Did they fall to number 5 at one point?
I believe they did, yeah.
Yeah. I think they fell back, and the rap against Clemson is the ACC is a weak schedule. But if we look at head-to-head matchups and compare them, Clemson. And the other thing is soft non-conference schedules. Well, an automatic non-conference game for Clemson is South Carolina because it's a state rivalry game, and they're in different conferences, so they play each other. So right away, they've got a Power 5 non-conference game on their schedule that a lot of other teams don't have. And this year, they also played Texas A&M, so that's 2 Power 5 teams out of 4 non-conference games. But Clemson, just last week, they routed South Carolina 38-3. Now, that's the same South Carolina team that beat Georgia 20-17, the SEC East champion. And then the other mark against Clemson is that they were lucky to beat North Carolina. They had to stop a 2-point conversion to win 21-20. Well, South Carolina also lost to North Carolina 24-20. So if you compare the scores like that, I don't think Clemson should be downgraded just because the perception of the rest of the ACC is that it's not very strong. Let's see, do we even have another ACC team ranked? Virginia is number 23.
Right.
And they've had all tough losses.
Well,
except for Miami, that was a bad loss for them. But they lost to Notre Dame, and who are their other losses here? Notre Dame, Miami's a bad loss. Notre Dame. Louisville, they've got 2 bad losses there. Yeah, Louisville's a terrible loss.
Yeah.
But beating Virginia Tech was a very good win. In fact, that knocked Virginia Tech out of the top 25.
Tommy, I agree with you, though. I don't think Clemson should be criticized for that tight game against North Carolina because I think North Carolina, you're going to hear a lot more about them next year. And, under Mac Brown, once he gets that first year under his belt, he's out there on the recruiting trail. And now they have the core and the nucleus in place for this guy. So I agree with you 100%. There is no way Clemson should be criticized. But the best thing is once you get in that Final Four, they don't care who the heck criticizes them at all. It'll be decided on the field.
Yeah. And the ACC gets criticism for the teams after Clemson.
Right.
And but let's look at the SEC. Okay, they got Georgia, they got LSU, Alabama. All the kids are going to the same schools. Auburn's good. Florida's good. Then after that, you got Tennessee, 7-5, Kentucky, 7-5, Missouri, 6-6, South Carolina, 4-8, Vanderbilt, 3-9, Texas A&M, 6-5, 7-5, Mississippi State, 6-6, Ole Miss, 4-8, Arkansas, 2-10. I mean, there's really not that much difference between the bulk of the conferences. It's just that the SEC has more top 10 or even top 5, top 8 teams.
True. All right, let's talk a little bit of college basketball. The game in progress right now. Michigan's taking on the new number 1, and that's Louisville. Michigan came into the game unranked, and then they jumped to number 4. And they did that by winning impressive contests against Gonzaga and North Carolina and the Bahamas. What are your thoughts about the University of Michigan under Juwan Howard?
Well, I think Juwan Howard is doing a great job of coaching the team. I think he's bringing a blue-collar work ethic to the team that maybe we didn't expect from him coming from the NBA,
right,
and maybe relating to college kids better than we expected. And then also he was smart enough to hire Phil Martelli as a bench coach to help him to adapt to the college game. But, Juwan Howard deserves a lot of credit for the way this team is playing.
Some thoughts about Duke, Michigan State while you have a few more minutes to go.
Well, like I had said earlier in the year, we're going to see a revolving door at number 1. Louisville, we've had started the year with Michigan State. They lost to Kentucky. Kentucky was number 1. They lost to Evansville. Duke was number 1. They lost to Stephen F. Austin. Now we've got Louisville number 1, and they're putting on a pretty impressive performance here against Michigan. They're up by 10, 47-37 with 4:55 to play. And the thing about Louisville that I think just about everybody underestimated is they have a pretty veteran roster. And then they have a very talented player, Jordan Noah.